now.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Our next speaker is Mr. Frank Panek, and he'll be talking about aerospace education, in particular to Civil Air Patrol. Frank is a member of Blue Ridge Rocketeers, which I had never heard of before, and the reason why is that apparently it's only been in existence for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Brand new section.
And he was explaining to me their first launch was in the slush, and so they're off to a good start.
Yeah.
So with that, Frank, why don't you take it away?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for guys for coming. I know it's the end of the day. A lot of people have headed on out. But I was coming to the meeting, and back at the squadron, I'm a member of the Civil Air Patrol, of course, and I'm a deputy commander for the cadet program. And I happened to mention while we were doing a TARC meeting, I was going to be here, and one of the cadets said, "Oh, are you going to talk to anybody at the NAR about maybe helping out?" I didn't even think about it. So about a week ago or so, I put a proposal in the PAT and said, "Hey, you know, if you need a fill-in speaker, I'll talk about Civil Air Patrol's aerospace education programs a little bit, particularly the rocketry programs and some of the things that NAR members, I believe, could get involved in." First off, are there any Civil Air Patrol members here? Here's one. And where are you from?
Well, I just go right here to Merritt Island.
Okay, cadet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The rest of you, have you heard of the Civil Air Patrol a little bit? Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of a history of what we do and where we're from, and then we'll go through some of the programs, and finalizing some of the rocketry things and some of the new rocketry programs that are developing. But CAP, or the Civil Air Patrol, goes back to the 1930s. It was a time of war, essentially, and there were a bunch of pilots out there, had planes, and they wanted to do something to serve their country. So they informally formed the organization and used airplanes and their own resources to basically patrol our shores. They flew the coastlines of the Atlantic and Caribbean and Pacific, and basically looked for the enemy, whether they were Japanese or German or whatever. Initially, they were assigned to the Army Air Corps. And during the course of the war, they flew over 500,000 hours looking for enemies of the country and also performing rescues. At some period of time, these guys decided that, well, we're flying these planes, and we spot these German submarines, particularly in the North Atlantic, off the coast, and we buzz them and we scare them. And actually, the Germans used to have, they used to say, "Oh, these pesky little yellow planes," because that's what they mostly were at the time. Yellow planes would be, spotting them. They approached the Army Air Corps and they said, "Well, why don't you guys give us some bombs?" Oh, this was a big thing. But the Army Air Corps said, "All right, we'll give it a try." So they gave them some bombs that they could drop out of their aircraft. And actually, during the course of the war, besides spotting lots of enemy submarines in coastal waters, they actually sank 2 of them. That's pretty good. But their key role, and you know what the key role is, search and rescue. And that's what they became famous for, getting out there, searching for people of either aircraft crashes or sunk ships, and performing rescues and coordinating those searches. All right? CAP eventually, from that organization that was strictly volunteer, became pseudo-governmental and became incorporated as a benevolent, non-profit organization, which later became part of the Air Force as its auxiliary when the Air Force was created in 1948. So it had a humble beginning as a strictly volunteer organization, and it was developed primarily in response to a war situation, but clearly became apparent that there was a role there for this organization, and the role could be best affiliated with the United States Air Force. We're still affiliated with the United States Air Force as their auxiliary. CAP members wear Air Force style uniforms. This is not one because I'm too short. Okay, you have to meet military height weight restrictions, and I'm too short. Okay. You don't get it, do you? Okay. Yeah. All right, the mission is basically threefold. We provide emergency services. That was the nexus that got us started in this. Okay, and then our cadet programs. He's involved with our cadet programs. And aerospace education, which is the third component and a very big component of what we do. Aerospace education is going to overlap all of the other things that we do. For emergency services, which is really what a lot of the senior members do, let me explain a little bit about how we're organized and structured. We have squadrons that are senior member only squadrons. We have squadrons that are cadet only squadrons. And then we have composite squadrons. I'm a deputy commander of a composite squadron. We have 130-something members. About 40 or 45 of those are seniors, and the remainder of those are cadets. And in our program, we address all three of those areas of CAP programs.
Hey, just a question. You said
Yeah, and interrupt me whenever you feel.
You said composite squadrons?
It's composite.
Maybe explain what that
Yeah,
means.
composite in the sense that senior squadrons, cadet squadrons, and then instead of saying combined, it's a composite. It consists of both senior members and cadet members.
Okay.
Cadets, and we'll talk more about here in a minute, cadets range from 12 years old to 21. And that, when we start talking about aerospace education, becomes an issue for instruction. But going back to emergency services, fundamental role again is search and rescue. That's directed out of U.S. Air Force's Rescue Coordination Center in Tyndall Air Force Base. Basically, if an aircraft goes down anywhere in the continental United States, Civil Air Patrol is called to search for that aircraft. If it goes down in coastal waters, it's the Coast Guard. Okay, but if it's anywhere in the continental United States, any aircraft down or a signal from an aircraft, Civil Air Patrol is called out. Signals from aircraft, they all have their little transponders. We would get called out that a satellite has picked up a signal someplace, maybe in the mountains of West Virginia. They don't know what it's from. They don't know if it's a crashed aircraft, missing aircraft, or anything. They contact us. We mobilize our aircraft crews. I'm on an aircraft crew, and ground teams to go search on the ground for where that signal's coming from. 99 out of 100 times, the signal is from an aircraft, private planes, in an airport, in a hangar. The pilot did something that tripped it, and that's where it is. But, then again, we do an awful lot of rescues. We do disaster relief. One of the big disaster relief operations recently was Hurricane Sandy. Huge involvement by Civil Air Patrol. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we start talking about some of the capabilities we have for aerial reconnaissance. Humanitarian services for the American Red Cross, primarily moving materials, blood across the country to areas that needs to be done. We provide operational support for the Air Force, and we also do counter-drug activity for the Department of Homeland Security's and DEA. So it's a really varied program. All of these, anytime we do anything, we have to be authorized to do that by the U.S. Air Force. Okay? So last year alone, we flew over 95,000 hours and made 44 rescues. Some aircraft, some lost hikers, some boating accidents, a variety of different things. Supported 58 different disaster relief operations, mostly associated with hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and those types of natural disasters. We flew over 1,200 hours of air defense intercept missions for the Air Force. Okay, now what that is, that's really cool. That really is. What we do is we put an airplane up, and the Air Force is told they have an intruder in U.S. airspace. Our planes fly slow, and they fly low. Their planes fly high, and they fly fast. So they often have a difficult time finding us. And it's a realistic scenario for the fighter pilots because they're out there looking for what they might encounter in a terrorist attack, a low-flying, slow-moving plane. So we're doing that, and we did about 1,100 hours of surrogate predator operations. We make believe that we're a drone, predator drone, and that's another operation where they try to intercept us. And our pilots can be pretty crafty, and sometimes they can intercept us, and sometimes they can't. And the most recent thing that CAP is becoming involved with is counter-drug operations, and this is basically helping Border Patrol, DEA, look for drug trafficking, both in coastal waters or on the border with Mexico, and also patrolling railroads, shipyards, and a variety of other things. For instance, some of the types of things that we did in 9/11, when the towers were attacked in New York City, and we had FAA issue ground stop. All the planes everywhere in the country were on the ground, except for Civil Air Patrol planes. They were ordered to patrol New York's skyline looking for damage, looking for the extent of the damage of those planes in the tower. So those are the types of things that we get involved with. And now what's interesting about this is we try as best we possibly can to integrate cadets in most of the things that we do. They're trained to do a lot of these functions. They're trained on aircraft, marshalling aircraft, some aircraft operations. They're trained in ground support. There's a lot of things that cadets do and help us out in accomplishing our mission. We've got a lot of advanced tools that we've acquired from the Air Force. We have a satellite toolkit, which basically allows us to track things on the ground, air assets that we have in the air, and coordinate all of those using search and rescue satellites that are military and satellites, and that's tied back then to our command posts from wherever we're directing our operations. We have digital imaging with real-time processing. When I go out on a flight to take pictures, digital images of objects on the ground, whether it's damage from a hurricane or a flood, those are uploaded real-time through satellite. I'm clicking pictures. It's giving me GPS coordinates of the pictures. Those pictures are going directly to a satellite, and from satellite to command post. So they can look to see exactly in real time what we're seeing from the aircraft. And Archer, you can see that airborne real-time queuing, hyperspatial enhanced recon, allowing us to look at ground features and being able to very carefully notice changes that have occurred over time with what's on the ground. So, all great tools.
So Frank, on the previous chart where you talked about that satellite, real-time satellite plane, is that on all your planes or just a subset?
We have a new fleet of planes, Cessna 182, and then on most of the 182s we have that capability. Right. The older aircraft don't have it, but this is where we're going, and it's becoming more and more high-tech, which is forcing a lot of the senior members, those that are pilots and aircrew members and that do support for operations like these, progressive training, more and more training to be able to satisfy the needs of our client, which is essentially the U.S. Air Force. So there's a lot to it. Cadet programs, for me, is the big thing that I do. I'm the deputy commander for cadet. I have 60-something cadets that I work with all the time. Those cadets go through a 16-step program that starts them off. Generally, they start when they're 12 years old, and they progress up through high school. And they move up in grade or rank as they go along, based upon training that they receive in such things as aerospace education, and leadership and physical fitness. They have to pass some physical fitness steps for every grade or rank that they go through, in moral leadership. So it's a very, very tight, progressive program that really takes young adults and develops them. And I try to instill a lot of science, technology, engineering, and math in the training that we provide to the cadets. One of the things that a lot of the cadets really enjoy, and there are some that are afraid of it. Are you afraid or you like it?
I love it.
You loved it. The cadet orientation flights. We basically give them the opportunity to fly in our aircraft. There's one of our airplanes right there. We extend that also to Air Force Junior ROTC and ROTC cadets. And if they want, as they go after they've finished their orientation flights with us, which they can get on both the powered aircraft and also gliders. We have a fleet of gliders. West Virginia, we have 7 powered aircraft and 2 gliders. I personally like a plane with something with power, so I don't go with glider. But they can go for their pilot's license. This is another form of aerospace education. But aerospace education is what really I want to talk about here, because that's where I think you guys, as an NAR member, fit into this as well. And aerospace education, we look at 3 segments or groups of people in our program. There's the Civil Air Patrol adults, the senior members. There's the entire cadet program, and then there's also the general public. We have a lot of emphasis on providing aerospace education to the general public through public school systems or through other organizations like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, and so forth. So who delivers those programs? A lot of what we're going to do is going to be, a lot of the material that we have has been developed by the Air Force. They have a STEM outreach coordination office at Maxwell Air Force Base. All of the materials that are developed are available for not only assisting cadets in learning aerospace education, but as I said earlier, for getting into the school systems. And there just is a bunch of pictures of some of the different types of things that we have. We'll be talking about them in a little bit more detail. Aerospace Dimensions modules. These are modules that have been developed for our primary delivery of aerospace education to our cadets. Okay, and it's a set of modules, 6 different modules they're basically standalone lessons, and the cadets are required, in order to move from grade to grade to grade, to pass tests based on the material that's presented in these various different modules. The modules themselves include things like an introduction to flight, some of the very basics and history of aeronautics, going back to the earliest aircraft, to balloons, to flight in general. And we have an LS system module on aircraft systems and airports, how airplanes work, aircraft of all different types operate, the mechanics of it, the science of it, airports and how they operate, how you navigate, and so forth. We talk about a module with air environments, rockets, space environment, and then the newest and the last one is different spacecraft. And all of these modules deal with the material from a historic perspective through what we have currently in operation today and the science and the technology that supports all of that. To complement what we do with the cadets, with all of those modules, we have an aerospace program for the senior members. And this program is a lot like the modules that were developed for the cadets. And they produced a really wonderful book, Aerospace, The Journey of Flight, and it covers absolutely everything that you could ever imagine regarding aerospace. It's a great teaching tool. If you're matter of fact, is anyone here a teacher? Okay. What do you teach and what grades?
I teach at the Air War College.
At the Air War College? Okay. Okay.
So senior female.
Okay, does anyone teach elementary K through 12 education? No? I know you're an instructor.
Used to, but
Yeah.
that's a long time ago.
But this is a good self-study guide for the adults, and one of our requirements now is for an adult senior member of the Civil Air Patrol to promote beyond the rank of captain, they have to pass a test. This Chuck Yeager Awards test. They have to pass a test based on this material in this book. Our goal is that 100% of our senior members complete the study of the material, which they do on their own, take the test and pass it. The reality is, right now it's about 30, and we still push it. We still push it because we want the senior members to be able to interact with the cadets. And the cadets have a huge aerospace education component in everything that they do.
So Frank, do you have a feel for generally for someone to complete that? What kind of level of effort is it? Is it pretty significant? I would think it would be.
Well, it took me. I have a doctorate, all right, but I'm not an engineer, and it took me probably 2 months studying the book and then passing the test. I took the test and I didn't get 100. There's a lot of material. There's a lot of material there. There's a lot of material. So a lot of senior members get into it and they go, "Oh my gosh, the detail here is just astounding." And the test is not simple. It requires a lot of recall. Even though it's a multiple guess test, it does require a lot of recall. And it's just a tremendous amount of material. But they need to do it. They need to do it. Why I asked if there were any teachers here is that a lot of the things that we have for aerospace education are for K through 12 teachers. Teachers get the advantage if they become aerospace education members of the Civil Air Patrol of getting orientation flights. Other senior members, such as myself, we don't get orientation flights. We have to become a member of a flight crew in order to get on the aircraft. But teachers get orientation flights. And then there's 2 other programs for them specifically: Connections in Education and Aerospace Education Excellence. I want to talk a little bit about those. But for the orientation flights, available to every one of those aerospace education members, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to emphasize for those teachers the importance of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math in their curriculum. And what's nice about all of their involvement with Civil Air Patrol is we provide them with resources, all sorts of resources that they can use in their classroom for teaching STEM and doing hands-on projects. And a lot of what we do in Civil Air Patrol, and you could bear witness on this as well, we do a lot of hands-on things. It's not a matter of someone standing in front of a group of cadets and lecturing. Cadets hate that. We hate it too. But we would lecture a little bit, but we want them to do things. It's hands-on. You learn better by listening and then by doing. And by doing, there's that constant reinforcement and they learn more. There's an Aerospace Connections in Education, or ACE program. As I said, we have them available for K through 12. This one is for this K through 6. Again, 21 different aerospace-themed lessons that Civil Air Patrol instructors have developed with our consultants through Maxwell Air Force Base. We provide that material to teachers. Teachers can pick and choose and develop the program, deliver it during the school year. In the 2013-2014 school year, 600 teachers are using the material, and there's 17,000 students that are using the material that we've provided. We get funding for this from the Air Force Association, Lightspeed Aviation Foundation, and the FLIR Systems, who developed a lot of the material.
They order these off the websites?
They can order it right off our websites, and if they're an aerospace education member, which they'll need to be, they have access to all of these things.
Now, do they need training in using those lessons, or they just get the documents and use
There's the material for the classrooms, and then there's instructor manuals, teachers' manuals.
Okay.
Right? So they can get their teachers' manuals, they can look at the material, they can learn it, and then they can deliver it in their classroom. They always can go back to a squadron aerospace education officer who maybe has been doing some of this for a while and get some help from us. Teachers that sign up for these programs and start using the material, we found that 90% of them complete the program. And Some testing that's been done in the schools has suggested that there's been a 46% increase in student knowledge and interest in aerospace. Interest is the big thing, trying to keep and get young adults interested in aerospace. We've seen a measurable improvement in standardized test scores. The Aerospace Excellence Education Program, another one, is free to teachers. It provides national standards-based aerospace hands-on activity. Again, the whole emphasis, get the kids in the particular grades involved hands-on with these materials. They're designed to fit in any type of curriculum, so you can integrate it within whatever your state curriculum is that you have. Teacher-friendly, and again here we have the material that'll go right up to their senior year, which is really nice.
How much of those about rockets?
There's a lot of it about rockets, yeah. There is. A lot of it's aerospace, which is aircraft, but it also is a lot of rockets as well. And then there's some other newer things that have been coming out. We have advanced, as part of the overall Aerospace Education Excellence Program, we have advanced mathematics and we have advanced physics that teachers can use. There's a lot of information. The kids don't actually get books, but the teachers get information that they could then integrate and supplement their state curriculum. Now we get to the model rocketry part. This is the fun part for me. This is what I get involved with my cadets. The model rocketry program initially, we were talking earlier, was a 3-stage program: a Redstone, Titan, and a Saturn stage. And what the cadets do is when they go through this program, if they complete it, they earn a rocketry badge. It's, a lot of what the cadets do is ribbons and bows and different things. The Redstone stage teaches a lot of the history. The Titan stage, we actually get to the point of talking about some of the physics that are involved in rocketry and the interactions of rockets with airspace and airflow and airfoils and all those sort of things. And then in the Saturn stage, a little bit more with tracking and then about motors and thrust, impulse, and those aspects. The neat part is they actually get to build and fly rockets and then track them. In the Titan stage, they build a single-stage rocket. In the Saturn stage, they build a 2-stage rocket. And they have the opportunity to get those basic model rocketry construction skills and also to learn simple things like center of pressure, center of gravity, aerodynamics, why the fins have to be on straight and not crooked, and all these other different things. And when we go out to fly the rockets, we have a very strong emphasis on the NAR safety code. The NAR safety code is actually a component of the classes that are taught. And we do a separate test on the NAR safety code before we take any of the cadets out in the field to go fly rockets. So they're getting the opportunity to understand a little bit about rocket construction, why they're built the way they are, recovery devices. We talk about gliders, we talk about 2-stage rockets, we talk about black powder motors and composite motors, we talk about altimeters, we talk about using other devices for tracking altitude. They're actually going to go out and track altitude when they fly your rockets. So they're learning a lot of different things. Physics, using trigonometry to do altitudes and calculate altitudes and all of it, and everything that goes with it. The first phase is Redstone. Like I said, we exposed them to the history of rocketry, essentially. And they build puff rockets and a variety of other non-powered, rockets to learn a little bit about the design of what a rocket is. And then we go through, like I mentioned earlier, the Titan stage, which talks about motion and aerodynamics. They build a Estes model, and we go over the safety code. Then they progress to the Saturn stage, where we're talking more about model rockets and thrust, black powder motors, composite motors, how a 2-stage rocket's different than a 1-stage rocket, and a variety of other different things. The program takes probably 3 months to deliver. 3 to 4 months to deliver in a squadron. The way we work in our squadron, we have all of those different aspects that I mentioned earlier. Physical training, leadership, moral development, character development, aerospace, emergency services. They all have to be fit in on a schedule over the course of a month. So we normally have 1 2 or 3 hour period where we have aerospace education per month. So we try to integrate these lesson plans into that over a course of time so that we can complete the program. We were talking a little earlier before the rest of you came in that the program was a 3-element program for model rocketry. This past year, we've developed a 4th and 5th stage, which is a high-power rocket, mid-power, high-power rocketry program. And there's new material being developed for that. You were approached as a NAR member to help with one of your local squadrons. I suspect that maybe we may see more of that type of an activity that's going on as those components are developed and are taught a little bit more in each of the different squadrons. For me, the logical extension of the rocketry program, which is a very basic program for the cadets, is to go into TARC, Team America Rocketry Challenge. And this is where I think there's a little bit of a fall down in Civil Air Patrol, and we'll get to it towards the end of the talk here. You all know what TARC is about. I don't need to go too much into all this, but you know, it's a 7th to 12th graders that are involved with this. We have a challenge every year. Specifically, Trip comes up with some really cool idea, and that's the new TARC thing for that year. And there's a nice fit because TARC is 7 to 12, our rocketry program, our cadet program is 6 to 12. All right, so there's a nice fit, and if they've already had the rocketry program, they've got the very basic skills already to start moving into TARC. Last year, I had 2 TARC teams from my squadron. This is my squadron, and the one team made it to the finals. The other did not. But as I'll talk about later, I think there's a real poor performance on the part of Civil Air Patrol in getting TARC teams pulled together. And that's where I think where we as NAR members can help in this process. Some of the newer directions that we're going into is robotics. And you immediately see that there's a nexus, if you will, between rocketry and robotics that can be developed. But this new robotics program encourages, again, it's another STEM program. This is another program that's available to teachers in the school systems or in any organization that teaches to young people. And again, it's hands-on, and we have developed a whole series of lesson plans and activities that takes the learning from the basics to a lot more of the advanced, so that the teams can really get into things. It's going to depend on the school system. It's going to depend on what resources they have available to them. If the projects are going to remain as simple or they're going to become more complex. It depends on what the school wants to do and what the school can support. But we will provide them. Civil Air Patrol will provide them with materials that supports that. There's also a satellite toolkit for the aerospace program. This is a computerized toolkit for orbital mechanics, orientation, space operations. They basically use this toolkit to look at orbits, satellite orbits, track things. It's high tech, and it's again, it's a system that is available to kids in the school systems. And then another new one is cybersecurity. Traditional domains of military conflict, we're always on land and sea. As we know from the last year or so, there's been a lot more cyber attacks. And cadets, not cadets, but students in schools, this is not a cadet program, this is another school program, can learn a whole lot about cybersecurity and learn such things about threat vulnerability and Cyber Patriot. Now, Cyber Patriot, have you been familiar with that at all?
I'm not, no.
All right, Cyber Patriot is developed off of the cybersecurity thing, and it's a program in the high schools, and then primarily in the high schools, that is competitive much the way TARC is competitive, where they form teams and they're presented with cyber attack challenges, very basic cyber attack challenges, and the teams have to make a solution to counter that cyber attack. If they successfully do that, they move on to the next stage. The attack then becomes more sophisticated. And then if they again succeed there, it goes to another more sophisticated attack. And it's a competition. They have a regional competition, and then there's a national competition on this. In 2013, Cyber Patriot for the Civil Air Patrol, we sponsored 360 teams. There was 1,100 teams nationwide. CAP sponsored 360 of those teams. That's a lot. TARC. Normally we have 700, 750 teams nationwide for TARC. Civil Air Patrol this year has 3 teams. Something's wrong. Something needs to be done. So that's essentially my message. And where does the TARC mentor fit into any of this? Well, the TARC member. We have aerospace education officers. I'm an aerospace education officer. I'm a senior member of the Civil Air Patrol. I'm a uniformed member. We also have aerospace education members. These are people that are out in school systems, 4-H groups, Boy Scouts, that are going to deliver our programs in those other venues. They get access to all of those materials, and they have a lot of these same privileges that the other CAP members have, but they're not part of the uniform part of the Civil Air Patrol. They don't go out on emergency services, and they're not involved in those other disciplines. They're doing aerospace and aerospace only. We are always in desperate needs for mentors or leaders for TARC. Now, I'm fortunate in a way. My squadron, I'm a member of NAR. I'm a level 2 certified NAR member. I love Rocketry, and I teach the Rocketry aspects of this thing. So for me to go into TARC with a group of kids, it's an easy thing. But for another aerospace education officer who basically in some other squadron maybe had to learn how to build an SD's kit from the directions, going to TARC might be a little bit challenging. Certainly going into the next phase of the program, which is going to be the mid and high power aspects, is certainly going to be challenging. So we need NAR to become more involved. We need the NAR members to, show an interest and try to get involved with some of these squadrons to help us develop the program and get these kids the experiences I think that are really wonderful for them to get. Here's the thing that I had, it's just the last slide, and then we'll just talk. Almost 25,000 cadets. That's a lot of cadets. That's the current statistics. With 34,000 senior members, 1,500 squadrons. That's a lot of opportunities out there. 2014, only 3 of those squadrons. 1,500 squadrons, only 3 squadrons with TARC teams. Polaris Squadron in Alaska, Monticello in Virginia, and my squadron in West Virginia. We could do better somehow, and I think we need help to do that. And that was the message I wanted to bring here, talk to you about. There are wonderful opportunities if you like to work with kids, or even adults. There's a wonderful opportunity for you to get involved. You could do that as a cooperator, as a leader for a TARC team. If you want to help support TARC, go make a visit for a squadron, talk to the Aerospace Education Officer, say, hey, I'm right here, and I'm a NAR member, and if you need help with a TARC team, give me a call. I'll come down and help. I'll meet with your cadets, and we'll get the program off the ground. TARC, I really truly believe, is a wonderful learning experience for the cadets. It takes the basic things that we give them in the beginning as their rocketry education and aerospace education, and puts it into real practice. It gives them a challenge. It gives them something to take the knowledge that they've developed in a classroom, maybe with some hands-on basic rocketry skills, and extend it to the TARC challenge. And the ones that get into it love it. Just to show you the types of cadets that do these things, though, one of my TARC teams from this year has four cadets on it. One's going to West Virginia University, has been accepted into a program that's pre-med. Another one is accepted into the Coast Guard Academy. The third one has been accepted into the Naval Academy. The other one was accepted, they're all seniors, accepted into the Air Force Academy. So these are kids that are really bright kids. And the TARC opportunity, I think, if we extend that type of opportunity to more of these kids, that they're going to help to develop their science, technology, engineering, and math skills even more, and get them interested in the sort of things that we need to see them interested in. So that's really all I had. If you guys have any questions, or if you have any suggestions, that would be great.
I know that's a very low percentage of TARC teams, but of the you have this wonderful aerospace guide for model rocketry that's been out available for, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years or
Yeah,
so.
about 10 years.
It's an epic work that very thorough, very complete. How many? You may not know this, but I don't know how many squadrons go through that program. How many cadets are Saturn level, Titan level? Is there any tracking?
I looked to see if I could find the data. And could you speak for your squadron at all?
I can't say personally for mine, but I know Titusville has one, and they have the whole squadron. Most of their senior members are all Saturn level, that they work on the Saturn level rockets. But they're huge Titusville. They have a huge squadron. We're just started up here in Merritt Island, so really don't have much.
Yeah, one of the things I find in the Civil Air Patrol is that for all of the activities that the cadets do, virtually every activity that the cadets do, we have a computerized tracking system for all activities. So every time they take a test, they pass the test, it gets recorded in what we call e-services.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go there and say, oh, I did this. When I complete all of these tasks, I get a great promotion in grade. The rocketry program is not entered that way. And there's no record of it in the system per se that way. So I can't go to it and pull out statistics. I know in my squadron, before I decided to teach it, the squadron's been around for a long time. The program's been around for 10 years. No one taught it. This is the first time it's being taught in the squadron. They have to pass all 3 of the components to get their rocketry badge.
Well, that's kind of my question, is how, you have these wonderful resources, how many squadrons are actually using them? And then, if they are going out and flying, where did they fly? Because you can't just, practice TARC anywhere. You've got to have a pretty good sized field. And if you're going to fly a 2-stage flight to make a Saturn level, you've got to have some kind of field. You've got to have launchers. You've got to have a range. How is all of this happening, apparently invisibly, to the NAR? Because we don't know that CAP is out there doing all this.
We're doing it. Yeah.
If it is happening.
Yeah,
because why aren't they going, oh, I've got to do Saturn. where can I fly? Well, there's an R section over here, they have a range, they fly, and you can go fly with them. So it's like you've got two complete parallel universes of NAR flying rockets and CFP squadrons flying rockets. How can they not ever intersect? And how can we increase that intersection so, hey, we don't have to build a launcher, we can go over to a NAR range, or NAR is looking for a field, there's a squadron over here, maybe, you know, the NAR clubs can connect with the, you know, we're looking at the same question,
Yeah,
the same problem, but here are the elements of that.
I've been advocating for years that there needs to be more communication, because I see both worlds, because I'm a NAR member.
Right.
Because I'm a NAR member, when they said, well, we would like to do a rocketry program, I said, well, okay, well, we're going to have to go fly at NARHAMS, or we're going to have to go fly at NOVAR. They're an hour and 15 minutes from where our squadron is.
Right.
When I started this talk, I said we created a new section, Blue Ridge Rocketeers. Well, the reason for that is so that I could take my squadron and we can go fly. We have 2 fields that we can go fly on, close by, you know, 10 minutes from where we are. But I think there's a disconnect, because a lot of these activities these squadrons want to do them, but if they don't have a NAR representative, or even know where to go to get that contact, it's not going to happen. And I'm afraid that in some cases, some of these squadrons are out flying rockets where they shouldn't be flying rockets and in a manner that they shouldn't be, because they just don't know, they don't know any better.
Well, I didn't know if it was a simple practice to launch your rockets at wherever your airstrip is, where you have your airplanes. I know that doesn't automatically happen.
It's really difficult to launch rockets in an airfield,
Right.
particularly a military airfield.
Right, so I thought that can't just, you know, oh, it's civil air patrol. No, they don't do that either. You've got the same problem of trying to find a field out of air traffic that a landowner will let you use.
So what I was hoping at in this is that NAR members, such as yourself, if you are located anywhere near a Civil Air Patrol squadron, which you can go find on the internet, go introduce yourself. Even by email. Just say, hey, you know, I'm a NAR member, and I fly, I don't know where you fly, but I fly in such and such a place. If you have cadets that want to get into a rocketry program, I can make that happen for you.
Okay. Are there directories for squadrons?
You can go to the website, just Google Civil Air Patrol, go to the website and go to your state and pull up the list of squadrons. Normally, if there's a military base anywhere near you, there's a squadron. If there's a regional airport near you, there's a squadron around. There's 1,500 of them. They're virtually everywhere.
They're organized by state?
They're organized by state. All of the squadrons are organized by wings. Each of the wings, a wing is a state. I live near Martinsburg, West Virginia. We have a squadron in Martinsburg. 10 miles, 15 miles to my south, I have a state line. I have a Winchester composite squadron. 20 miles to my north, in Hagerstown, Maryland, I have another squadron. And 40 miles to my east, in Frederick, I have another one. Frederick Squadron. So if there's an airport, or there's a regional airport, there are Civil Air Patrol programs. In our hands, we have had, at Mount Airy, cadets from Frederick come out and fly.
Not as often as I'd like, if they have come out.
I've taken cadets from my squadron for years down to Novar to fly, and I've never taken them to NARHAMS because they're always afraid of the trees there.
Smart young people.
So they always want to go down, and they always want to go to Great Meadow. But if the fact wasn't that I was a NAR member, I don't think that would happen. I don't think that would have happened, because the aerospace education officer that's there doesn't know or doesn't have those contacts because he's not into model rocketry. He may be into airplanes, model airplanes.
Have introductions been made?
No, not really.
Vince is the chair of the NAR Education Committee.
Okay.
Frank's the vice president of NARHAMS. And Roy, I forget Dr. Houchin's precise title.
War College, yeah.
I am War College, but I'm also the editor of the Educators Newsletter.
Okay.
And I work with Jeff Montgomery
Oh,
at
okay.
Maxwell.
Okay.
We worked with him on the advanced guide and the new
The
basic
new-
guide
You worked with the new 4 and 5 guy? Okay,
to exactly.
yeah, good.
And have just scrubbed that to take a look at it, to make sure that websites for our sections, all the standard
All that
kinds,
stuff is there.
all that stuff is there. That's
It's-
what we were talking
It's
about.
always
So,
been there.
and we're on the CAP, literally on the website. If they go to the modeling section, they can find
Yes.
where all the
It's
NAR
all-
sections.
It's all
So
there.
electronically, through the systems, the NAR is very visible. If they go down your path, the information is there for them to reach out in one way, shape, or form. Now, that next step, I even asked Jeff at one point in time, do you have a list, an email list, that I can bring in to our educators newsletter? Because every month, every other month, there's something about TARC. TARC
Yep,
does
yep.
not stop.
Yep,
So
constant.
it's constant. So I'm always bringing that next step out, as well as resources, as well as awards and scholarships, all the above. If I've got the email addresses, I can send it directly to them, but it's got, I need that, and
You don't, as a matter of routine, send that to all the aerospace education officers?
Jeff gets it, and no, Jeff would not give me the list
That's what needs to happen.
of every aerospace education. Jeff gets it, and so it becomes a push.
You simply ask
You
Jeff,
will get it as soon as I get your email
How if there's
address.
1,500 squadrons, do we only have 3 TARC teams? I mean,
That's
Yeah,
what
that would
this
be
is
an
the
internal
thing.
CAP thing.
this is
I don't
And
know.
I've been raising the question internally.
Yeah.
Why is this?
That's a good
You
thing
know,
that you did.
I wrote an article in Volunteer Now last year
Yeah.
about the success of my team, plugged squadrons to do TARC.
Yeah.
I had this full expectation that there would be more TARC teams this year, and there's not.
Well, do I have your email address?
You'll have it.
Thank you.
I thought it might be helpful if you all knew who each other were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, and in fact, you mind, so if
If I
anybody,
can help you in any way to help get this more inserted into CAP's teaching philosophy, I think we have a winner
Well,
here.
and see, I'm coming out of having done a partnership with 4-H for about 6 or 7 years, and we've got, 10 times that many kids in 4-H, but only 10 times that many TARC teams. We have probably 15 4-H TARC teams out of 700.
Some of them have done very well
Yeah.
historically, but not enough
I'm sure.
Right, and they've done well, but where's that million kids? And you're getting 30 teams. And what we've had trouble is, you got so much going on in 4-H. The national organization level board does not, does not promote TARC that much. They may send out 2 or 3 announcements. I send them an announcement, in September or August, whenever registration opens. Please tell everybody in 4-H, that we have TARC. And I don't, it will come out maybe in one of their Clover Minute newsletters or something. And that's it. There's not a whole lot more push because it's, they got robots and rabbits and other things
Well,
that
the
they're...
Cyber Patriot thing is taken off big time.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we,
360,
And
360.
4-H does
Yeah.
environmental stuff, which is
Yeah.
great, that's good
That's okay.
science. But where's the rockets? We're supposed to be feeding them announcements, and I don't know that it's coming down to get down to the agents and the extension agents, where the 4-H groups are. So maybe there's a similar bottleneck here where is there somebody at CAP we could send TARC announcements to that would put it in the right channels where it would come out and get disseminated to all these squadrons and then maybe encouraged and advertised too. I think that's one channel to do that. The other thing is you go out and knock on doors. But
It's got to be a communication issue. Because if you guys are doing all that, I was not aware of that. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I knew that there was a NAR headquarters thing going on. Nothing comes out to the squadrons or to the wings. I've been a member of CAP for 4.5 years. I have never seen anything about TARC. Never. I went to the squadron and I said, we want to do TARCs. And they said, okay, we'll do that. But
Well, it seems so natural.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
It's a perfect
that
fit.
Civil Air Patrol is mostly airplanes and
No.
and
Well,
rescue and search,
like we thought.
but, you know, what else, wouldn't that draw kids? Hey, you want to do some rockets? Okay, yeah, let's do that rockets this year.
the kids gravitate. I mean, every year I said, I want to have 2 TARC teams. I have 60 cadets. I have to turn them away. I have too many that want to do it.
Well, I had one other question, lest we stay too long. What is your impression of NCAS? You know what that, heard of that group? Are they, what are they to you?
Judy and company, are they of any value?
They haven't been.
Okay.
Yeah, because see, that was where we tried to go on a national level to connect with Civil Air Patrol, was we went, hey, the Aerospace Education Group, Council. So we've been, talking to them, and they have a lot of meetings and have a newsletter, but, and have their awards every year, but it never seemed to do direct connection with students.
See, the only thing I've ever seen, every year there's a message that'll come out from headquarters on the internet, through e-services, it'll say, TARC registration is open. That's it. That's the only thing. And if you didn't know to look for that, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
This month they had a nice write-up on TARC.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah. So,
but I sent something to them in September.
yeah, and of course they're on our list. So every other month they get everything out of the educators' newsletter.
Right.
So I keep feeding them.
Can.
Of course I'm feeding Jeff, and of course Jeff lives there, so I can pick up the phone too.
Right. Yeah.
And I feed the Auburn CAP squadron because they're just up the road from me.
What's happened there?
I mean, I can
Do
give.
you know why though?
No. I mean, when I was active duty in Tinker, and I worked with our CAP squadron there, and of course it was there. We didn't have TARC then,
Yeah.
but we still launched. We still
had a rock
active,
program,
absolutely, and we
Yeah.
and we ran that, and it was. Of course, I was NAR, and it all just fit hand in glove.
Yeah, it fits. It fits perfectly.
It was perfect. So it can work well, but the hard nut to crack here is partially getting the information out. But we have multiple venues to get that information out. But we can't, we can't inspire beyond that. It has to be locally. There has to be an interest. I can't imagine that CAP doesn't promote rocketry in some way, shape, or form in the program every year. They know they can get a badge. So if there's not, within the squadron, if there's not an interest driving it, then I don't know how it's going to happen except door-to-door knocking and us presenting or...
Because the NAR sections generally, if a group comes to a meeting or calls up and says, hey, we are Scouts, CAP, 4H, Junior ROTC, we want to fly rockets with you, can we come? And it's like, the third Saturday at Joe's farm,
Cub Scouts.
We find it. We've had CAP squadrons come down to Sears, Southern Area Rocketry, Southeastern Area Rocketry Society, down in Sampson, Alabama. Now, we've had multiple CAP squadrons come in there at various times, but they've reached out to us. Now, Greg Lane, our president, makes the announcement. So those that have taken that step, and then they're connected. And once they're connected electronically, they're part of the Sears sections email distribution list, and so it goes that way. But again, I mean, we're there.
Well, I don't know if it's going to change anything in general, but the high power of the stage 4 and 5 has broken something loose in my state apparently, because just literally 3 days ago I was contacted by the officer in Kansas cap thing, and they've been doing the rocketry program, and managing them on their own some way or another, but this particular individual doesn't have any high power experience. They want to get into this program, and so he reached out to our section. How he got that information, I'm not exactly sure, but he did.
Find a local club.
And so he wants to know if we can help them, cross that barrier, and so that may actually happen in more places too, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because-
that's a possibility.
Because the NAR information is on the CAP website,
Yes, it
and you
is.
don't have to go through e-services to get it.
Nope, it's on the public.
It's on the public one. And there's a couple of things, what we were asking Jeff about, that there was some material that, and that's the issue, as long as we can keep it on the public side. I know Jeff, he's already done it, put it on there. We've got an MOU, will be
What's the MOU going to do?
between NAR
The
and CAP.
MOU is between NAR and Civil Air Patrol that we will promote joint activities, and
Exactly
we
what you're
will
talking about.
communicate into each other what our events are, so
There
that
needs to be,
Civil Air Patrol can come to NAR launches and know about them, and that NAR can find out about what Civil Air Patrol is going to support them, and try to get everybody flying rockets together.
that's exactly the goal.
And then,
Yeah.
for us, it'll be key that as much as possible stays on the public website, because a preponderant amount of our members may not be CAP members.
Yeah,
They could become CAP members, but initially for them to say, well, gee, I wonder if there's any squadron out there. Let me go to that website. Because again, every other month, I've got something about CAP and resource availability. Because the library, the Aerospace library is huge.
it's huge.
It's huge. It's got all
Absolutely.
kinds of great stuff in it.
Oh, wonderful
And
stuff.
so, about every other month, there's a Civil Air Patrol little advertisement in either resources or in something in terms of inspiration. So we're championing the cause on our side of the fence as
Well, you guys,
best
if
we
I can
can.
do anything to help you out, just,
Well,
you got my email.
Yeah, so you will,
And you
when
can,
I get back home, you'll be on the list.
Tell Jeff, you can send an email to Jeff, say, hey, we heard this presentation
Yep,
from
yep. Yep,
Frank that was the
Yep.
thing. We need to do
Yeah,
more
I do.
things together.
Okay, let me copy that.
okay.
It's WV Rocket Man at frontier.com. Because I think there's an opportunity being missed here.
Absolutely, we'll keep nibbling away at it.
I mean, if we could put up over a couple of hundred Cyber Patriot teams, why can't we, how come only 3 TARC teams?
Yeah. At least-
Three squadrons.
Yes.
Maybe 4 or 5 teams, but that's insignificant.
Well, that'll be a good metric that we begin for. Well,
Yeah.
2014 only had 3, and now we've
But
got
now we've got-
23.
Yeah,
and
yeah, you know,
300.
say, well, if we're doing all these things, how come we only have Polaris, Monticello, and
And I believe I can speak for TARC is that we will not be bothered if CAP comes in and eventually dominates TARC, with hundreds of teams. That will be okay.
Creates a new level.
Wouldn't bother us
okay.
none.
We're still waiting for for 4-H to do that, and they're,
Well, the one good thing about NAR mentorship, perhaps, is last year we had 3 squadrons participating in TARC, 2 of them went to the finals. That's pretty good.
That's a great percentage.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah. They're good folks.
They're smart.
Yep.
I mean, and they've got a lot of aerospace education from when they start
Yeah.
all the way up till they get into TARC. And generally when you're juniors and seniors, that's when they're really shining. And they have interests in aerospace education as careers. So these are the young adults we want to mentor, and we want to get into the system. We want to try to do
Well, and I
something.
assure you that the workforce and the aerospace industry is looking at that too.
Mhm.
They love rocket people because, and particularly TARC teams, because they've been through it. They're halfway qualified to work in aerospace as it is.
They're exposed to the processes,
Exactly.
of course, the thinking, and certainly the education.
Well, let's make something happen, guys.
Sure.
If I can help you in any way,
Well, in April,
Any way at all.
you'll get a newsletter.
from an internal side, let me know.
Okay, so if you've got email addresses of folks
No.
that once that once you get the newsletter, you can either forward the newsletter to them, or if you want me to put them on the list, let me know, and I can add them to the list. It's not a problem. So we'll approach it from
Somebody.
the grassroots as
Yeah.
well as the headquarters level.
Yeah. I often wondered if the issue with TARC, I never really got a handle on it. I always wondered if the issue with TARC was the expense of TARC. That's the one thing that, it's an unknown factor. It depends on what the financial situation is of the squadron. If an aerospace education officer is going back and say, I want to have a TARC team, and I think I'm going to need, even if we don't go to the national, I'm going to need $500 to $800 to support the team.
That's a good number.
Do we have that? Oh no, we don't have it. Forget it. Well, what I did the first year is I went to the Air Force Association and I got a grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've got for us, we've got lots of people that you can reach out to that are either Air Force associations, university associations that are there, that they'd be more than glad to do that.
And most our teams get assistance somewhere.
Yeah.
They either have bake sales at their school, or they have some kind of local PTA money that they find, and CAP could easily do the same thing for, how do you do your robots, or get your gas money for plane flight? Somebody's sponsoring that.
Yeah. First year we went to Air Force Association, we got a grant, we went to the parents, said if you could provide $25 to help support it.
Yeah.
Really. And it worked, we pieced it together, and then the squadron was able to put the rest forward to make it happen.
And in fact, there are still some of the, what are they called? Essentially they're kits, packages, groups, Rocketry, that you or any other squadron could ping headquarters for, and Jeff will send out the kits. In other words, that piece to begin a TARC team is there. Launchers, I'm not sure about, yes, I think he was talking about motors, because we talked about high-powered motors, mid and high-powered motors, what would be a yada yada, that's depending on the kit, yada, all that. So we've already talked through that, to have a kit system, or available, kit's not the right word, a package, program, module, if you will, that when you call in and say, hey, we're putting together, we're working the program, we've got X number of cadets that are ready for the advanced level, we want one of those packages. And then
off it goes.
Off it goes. I've seen the warehouse. So but it's a finite number, and middle of the sequestration, yada, yada, yada.
Well, that didn't help us in the last couple of years.
No.
But the real issue here is there's a communication issue.
Yes,
that's what it
quite
is.
right.
We can do that with no
nothing else
cost.
other than communication.
Communication is easy.
So I appreciate your support.
You
I
bet.
appreciate anything that you can do with us. If you need me for in any aspect here, just give me an email. I'll work with you, see what we can do. There's a missed potential here. I guess we're done.
We can get the number.
What time?
Yep.